What's poppin', players? Part 3. Rappers want to be ball players and ball players want to be rappers. This is part 3 of the Ballin' MCs. Y'all like it? Share, comment. Let's get to it. In the NBA, there's a such thing as a sixth man. And sometimes we treat our sixth men like stepbrothers. Sweet Lou, Williams, or Lemon Pepper Lou. But when they tap him and he go in the game, he heat up immediately like a human torch. Don Tripp. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Lou Williams, Don Tripp, Gorilla. Next up on the list, Ballin' MCs, Jamal Crawford. Sometimes I think that he is me, like Mike, Starlito. If you know Jamal Crawford's song, you know the story. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jamal Crawford, Starlito, like Mike. The Step Brothers, if you know, you know. Next up on the list, Jim Jackson. He was Mr. Ohio back in the day. Sally. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Jim Jackson, Sally, Ohio. Next up on the list, Meta World Peace. If you're doing your Googles, you may have to look up Ron Artest. But he would D up anybody and he would look at you like, who want what? Benny Siegel. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, Benny Siegel, who want what? Next up on the list, Damian Lillard, or Dame Dollar, Goat Spirit. It's self-explanatory. Do we play ball or do we rap, or do we rap and play ball? Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Damian Lillard, Dame Dollar, Goat Spirit. Next up on the list, Randy Moss. You knew if he was running down that sideline and he threw that arm up, he was letting you know, I'm about it. Throw me the ball. Master P. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Randy Moss, Master P, Bout It. Next up on the list, Russell Westbrook. Being on different teams and being able to adjust your game to different players, he had to be a real player partner. Daz, Mr. Triple Double, rap, produce, engineer. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Russell Westbrook, Daz, Dillinger, player partners. Next up on the list, Swim Cash, Remy Ma, warning verse. Next up on the list, Big Dog, Glenn Robinson. When he got heated, it would get hot as 400 degrees. Juvenile, who was the first big dog on Cash Money. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Juvenile, 400 degrees. Next up on the list, if I can get to it. Y'all enjoying this so far? I hope so. It was a lot of work listening to all of these catalogs to find the right song for each athlete. Next up, Agent Zero, Gilbert Arenas. At his peak, he was a bad boy. Shine. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Gilbert Arenas, Shine, Bad Boy. Next up on the list, John Starks. And when he had that dunk on the Bulls, that look on his face he had was like, kill that noise. MC Shan. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, John Starks, MC Shan, kill that noise. Next up on the list, Brittany Griner. I rock rough and stuff with my Afro puffs. Rock on. Big Bad Lady, Lady of Rage. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Brittany Griner, Lady of Rage, Big Bad Lady. Next up on the list, Paul George. When he get in his bag, he a threat to society. 2 Chainz. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Paul George, 2 Chainz, threat to society. Next up on the list, Klay Thompson. He be so smooth when he score on you, he just give you the blank face. Schoolboy Q. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Klay Thompson, Schoolboy Q, blank face. Next up on the list, Draymond Green. All he do is win. J-Rock. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Draymond Green, J-Rock, win. Next up on the list, Steph Marbury. No, I know y'all thought it was going to be Steph Curry. Stephon Marbury. He was so fast with the ball. I'm sure it was an adrenaline rush when he got the ball, and it was an adrenaline rush trying to guard him. Twister. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Stephon Marbury, Twister, Adrenaline Rush. Next up on the list, Derek Fisher. You know, you gave him the ball at the end of the game. He was going to take that shot. And usually he was going to make that shot. Exhibit. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Derek Fisher, Exhibit, you know. Next up on the list, Stack Jack, Steven Jackson. Seemed like he's came a long way from look like life worth living now. Currency, both smokers. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Steven Jackson, Currency, worth living. Next up on the list, Matt Barnes. On Matt Barnes look like he be having women bringing fruit on a golden plate, some smoothies or something. Always look like he on a 30-day run. Larry June. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Matt Barnes, Larry June, 30-day run. Next up on the list, Al Harrington. Selling bud right now. Kush God, Smoke Dizzer, Vegan Weed. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Al Harrington, Smoke Dizzer, the Kush Gods. The song is Vegan Weed. Next up on the list, Nick the Quick Van Exel. Here I go. Mystical. Next up on the list of the Ballin' MCs, Nick the Quick Van Exel, Mystical, Here I Go. Next up on the list, Kyle Lowry. And when he get to bubbling, you're going to win. Anderson .Paak. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Kyle Lowry, Anderson .Paak, bubbling. Next up on the list, Richard Rhett Hamilton. Back in the day, he got his nose broke, I think, and he had to put on a black mask. They also said he kept his nails long so he could scratch you, so he had to be out there like a black savage. Royce the 5'9". Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Rip Hamilton, Royce the 5'9", Black Savage. Next up on the list, UD, Udonis Haslem. Do he ever smile? He don't look like he played no games. Trick Daddy. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Udonis Haslem, Trick Daddy, play no games. Next up on the list, Kendrick Perkins. In his after career, it always looked like he given up the ghetto gospel. Killer Mike. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Kendrick Perkins, Killer Mike, Ghetto Gospel. Next up on the list, the Playmaker, Michael Irvin, number 88. Always feel like you can't see me, MC8. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Michael Irvin, MC8, you can't see me. Next up on the list, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, or Chris Jackson. If you're doing your Googles and you want to check out his college career at LSU. But his offense was assaulting. You understand me? Crazy. And when Papoose put you in that alphabetical assault, crazy. So next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, Papoose, alphabetical assault. Two true dudes that I see. Next up on the list, Jerry Stackhouse. Always look to impose his will. Have it. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Jerry Stackhouse. Have it. Impose my will. Next up on the list, Sebastian Telfair. He was a man child way back when. If you had to guard him, you were in trouble. Shaheem, the rugged one. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Sebastian Telfair, Shaheem, the rugged one, in trouble. Next up on the list, Rasheed Wallace. Always was looking, let me correct that. He wasn't always looking. He was always looking to score, but he didn't take no mess. So who won it? David Banner. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, Rasheed Wallace, David Banner. Who won it? Last but not least, for part 3 of the Ballin MCs, John Wall. And when he was up in the nation's capital with the Washington Bullets, he was like the HNIC prodigy. He make the game look ABC 1, 2, 3. Next up on the list of the Ballin MCs, John Wall, Prodigy, ABC. That concludes part 3 of the Ballin MCs. I hope y'all liking it so far. If so, like, share with your platforms, even leave a comment. Let me know if you would have changed some names around. But if you change some names around, you got to replace who you change with an athlete and song that matches their game. So there we go. Part 3, Ballin' MCs. Stay tuned. Part 4 and 5 is coming. Peace.